Windows 8 has received a lot of press, and by the time it was finally released in the release to manufacturing version, and by the time it hits the street, people are going to be somewhat paranoid of what they're going to expect, and especially when they start to see demos of this thing out in the stores and stuff, they're really going to be kind of worried about whether they're going to like it. Trust me, I know I keep sounding like a used car salesman here, but you're going to like Windows 8, I promise you. But just in case, there is a way to run Windows 8 on your machine without undoing your Windows 7 or Vista or whatever you're comfortable with, and that is to dual boot the machine. Now, for some of you, this might be a totally new concept. If it is, I want to really kind of hold your hands through this. If you've dual booted before, Windows 8 is very simple to do. But in this video, let's talk about what dual booting is, and then I'll kind of give you some tips and pointers, and then we'll kind of get on into it and show you a demo. First of all, what is dual booting? Well, it's where we're going to load two operating systems on the same computer. We're just going to partition or divide the hard disk into two separate pieces, and we'll leave Windows 7 in one. We'll kind of clean off a little space on a separate partition, install Windows 8 on that new partition, and then when we boot it up, it's going to show me a new screen that I've never seen on a boot up, and it's just going to say, hey, what do you want to boot up, Windows 7 or Windows 8? And of course, whichever one you choose, that OS will start up. If you don't do anything, one of them, it'd probably be Windows 8, it's going to default and start up after 30 seconds or something, and you can change that default if you would like. Now, here's the bottom line, okay? Dual booting is relatively easy to configure as long as you read the instructions and take your time, okay? Now, make sure you understand this line right here, okay? Make sure you don't miss this. Dual booting can be catastrophic if you don't follow the directions closely. You're working with your drive, you're moving things around, you're partitioning. It's very, very easy to lose your data on Windows 7, okay? So it can be catastrophic if you don't follow the directions very closely, all right? Now, here's the rest of the story. It can still be catastrophic even if you do follow the directions very closely. If you have disk errors, if you have any kind of issues, if, humidity, the rotation of the earth, all that sort of stuff can cause problems. And so understand this can be somewhat risky, all right? So what are we going to do about that? Well, we're going to back up before we get started. We'll talk about that a little bit later, okay? So why do we want to dual boot? Well, your Windows 7 implementation remains intact, untouched. It's going to be okay. It's going to run just like it always did. And then when you want to work with Windows 8, take a look at it, evaluate it, see if it's what you want to use. And you can go out to Microsoft's site and get a trial version, download it, run it in a dual boot mode. It runs in its own world, and you can see which one you find yourself using the most. Now, there are three easy steps to dual booting Windows 8. First thing is back up everything. Back up your entire hard disk, and you can make a system image, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on, okay? So after you've backed up all your data, you can now create a new partition for Windows 8. You're going to use that disk management tool. You can go in there and create a new partition for Windows 8, and then we're just going to simply install Windows 8 on the new partition. Windows 8, as it installs, will realize, hey, wait a minute, there's another operating system out here. Let me build a boot screen for them. Let me build a boot menu. And this kind person wants to either boot into Windows 8 or this other operating system that I see out there. And so it'll take care of all that magic for you. Now, there is a great tool for dual booting and the whole installation process with that, and it's called the Windows 7 USB/DVD download tool. This thing is really neat. It lets you create a bootable USB stick, okay, or a DVD. Now, this bootable USB stick is really cool. I've got this. This is how I install Windows 8 on my machine, my wife's machine, and other friends that say, hey, I want to see what Windows 8, especially in the beta versions, people wanted to see it. I kept the stick on me, stick it in their machine. In just a few minutes, we could get them dual booted and take off on this, okay? So that's a pretty slick trick. Now, you search Microsoft.com for Windows 7 USB DVD download tool, and that's where you'll get your complete instructions. But since you're a student here at VTC, you don't have to go download this thing because I've already gotten it for you The tool is out there in your work files folder. You'll just have to install it on your machine. Once you've got that done, download the ISO from Microsoft, either the trial version, the completed version, the upgrade, whatever you want to do. Well, you can't do upgrade because you're doing a fresh install. But go grab the trial or the full version of Windows 8, and you want to download the ISO. Then you want to run this Windows 7 USB DVD tool and point to the ISO. It will put a copy of the ISO on your boot device, USB or DVD, and then it'll make that a bootable device, and you're going to be pretty cool from there. Okay, so we're going to go through this dual booting process, and you'll see a lot of this stuff, and I'll talk you through it. Okay. But anyway, that's an overview on dual booting. This is a great way to look at or try a new operating system, especially when you're working with an operating system that's in those pre-release modes.